Hey there everyone, and welcome to Bill's Retro Gaming Show. On this video, I'm going to be wrapping up a little mini-series that I've been doing lately related to Arcade1up and looking back at this past year, looking forward to the beginning of the coming year, and in this video, looking even further beyond into the rest of 2023. And we're going to jump in and get started with it all right after this. Alright everyone, as always, thank you so much for clicking on and watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscription button. Click the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I put up a new video. Give this one a thumbs up and leave a comment below if you want to be part of the conversation. So now, as I alluded to at the beginning of the video, I have been doing a little mini series of videos the past couple of weeks. And about 2 weeks ago, I put up a video just looking back at the year of 2022 and kind of giving my thoughts and throwing it out to you guys on your thoughts on how we all together think Arcade1up did throughout the year of 2022. Last week I put up a video just giving my little thoughts and predictions on what Arcade1up might announce for CES 2023 coming up in January. And I want to wrap it up with this video looking at the rest of 2023 and just kind of putting down my thoughts and opinions on what Arcade1up might do or what they could do differently for the year coming up than they did in 2022. Again, I would love to hear your comments and opinions on this subject. Be sure to leave your comments below on whether or not you think I'm right on in what I'm going to talk about, whether or not you think there's other things that they should be doing or other things that they should be focusing on. Love to get the conversation flowing for sure. But let's dive right in. And I jotted down some notes here on some things that I want to talk about. They're really not in any particular order. This is not like a top 5 or a top 10 list or anything like that. It's just kind of how things came to me. And I figured I'd just kind of run through it and hopefully not ramble too much on my thoughts and opinions on that. And of course, like I said, love to hear yours in the comments below. So let's dive right in and let's just talk about this. So like I said, the first thing that I want to talk about, and this was just kind of the first thing that came to my mind when I was putting this list down, is a change to form factors for Arcade1up. Now, personally, I think they hit on a really good looking cab for the last few that came out in 2022. Starting with the Mortal Kombat Legacy, going into the Capcom, into Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Even NFL Blitz had a very similar style and look to it, other than the fact that it had a 4-player control panel on it. And it's, you know, what people have kind of dubbed the Midway Legacy shape to the cab, because it kind of looks like an old Midway style arcade cab, even for, you know, Capcom related games and things like that. Altogether, I don't think it's a bad looking form factor, and it's one that I'd like to see them maybe stick with for the most part in 2023, except for this. How about similar form factor, but doing away with the risers? Now, there's been a lot of talk and speculation about Arcade1up maybe moving away from risers altogether starting in 2023. Now, and I'm not talking about just XL, which I'll get into in a second. I'm talking about in their 3/4 scale. Now, I may be in the minority here, but honestly, the risers don't bother me that much. I have no particular problem with them. I do like it better when they make the risers kind of fit cohesively with the cab. Like, for instance, on my Atari Tempest, the Atari Legacy, the Tempest, I like that the artwork on the sides floats down into the riser and kind of, like I said, makes it look like it all goes together one piece. On the Marvel vs. Capcom 2, it's something I wish they had done, but they didn't. They put the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 logo on both the front of the riser and on the sides. Front looks great. Sides, I'd rather have seen the artwork go all the way down. So I don't mind the risers when they do that, but I understand why people would love to see them move away from the risers. And I think this is where maybe Arcade1up could take a page out of iArcade's book. If you look, I have an iArcade Gold, and one of the things with that is it actually comes in 2 packages. It comes in the bar top, which is basically the control panel up, and once you put that together, you could basically be done. You could put that on a bar top. You could put that on a table. You don't need the bottom piece at all. Then you build the bottom piece and you put it together and it's one unit. Arcade1up could do a similar style with their cabs going forward. They could have the top piece be one thing that you put together, the bottom piece be a piece that you put together, and then they go together to form the whole unit. Now, I think that's kind of the model that they take with the Excel cabs, but not in their 3/4 scale. If they want to move away from the risers, they could do something similar in the 3/4 scale, and I think it would be a good way to differentiate their 2023 cabs from their previous cabs. And one thing I talked about in the CES prediction is that I do believe that we're going to see new legacy cabs this year. We will see new Atari, Namco Bandai, Capcom, Midway. We will get new legacy cabs from them. Now, how are those cabs going to be different from last year? We moved from 12 to 14 games. They've all been Wi-Fi enabled. They all have the coin doors on them. What can they do really different that would make somebody want to upgrade? You know, beyond maybe adding a couple more games to it. I think going riserless is one way to entice people to upgrade. You know, to maybe go from last year's model to this year's model, or from 2 years ago's model to this year's model, is to go riserless. So that is one thing that I think Arcade1up could do differently in 2023 to differentiate themselves from their previous models. Now, moving on to talking about, like, say, XL and Pro. Again, as far as like predictions go, I do think we're going to see more XL cabs in 2023. Now, what they will be, I don't know, but I do think we will see more. We really only got 2 in 2022, and that was the Shaq and the Golden Tee. And I think they were done very well, other than the monitors in them. I think that the look of them, the style of them, I think is fantastic, and I would love to see more XLs come from them. Maybe that's something they could do with the legacies this year, is move all the legacies to XL. But I do think in some way, shape, or form, we will get more XL cabs this year. In terms of the Pro, jury's still out on how well it did with Killer Instinct to see if we will get a new Pro. I think if we do get one, it will be one. Possibly Street Fighter. I don't think we'll see more than one in a year, at least not initially, not in 2023. I think they're still testing the waters. I think they may do one more next year and then decide if they want to do multiple in following years. It's my personal thought. I could be very wrong about that, but I think you're more likely to just see one in the Pro line. So I want to focus more on the main line and the XL line and see how things could be different. Now, another thing that I think that they could do is different skins. We've gotten that in the past. Like last year with the Midway, it was Mortal Kombat themed, was the main Midway legacy. But then they did a reskin to Joust, and it was a retailer specific one. I think it went like with Shop Hippo, and then maybe Walmart had it, and a few places. It didn't come, I don't believe, directly from Arcade1up. I would love to see them do a similar thing and do some reskins. Now, again, I'm a big one. I would love to see things be in their proper form. If you're going to do a Joust cab, I would like it to look more like a Joust cab, not a reskin Mortal Kombat cab. And I think the same is true of anything that they do, but I understand the logistics of it. And I know a lot of people have been screaming, like with Capcom, if they're going to do a Capcom legacy, I'm sorry to say it, but it's probably going to be Street Fighter themed. Just seems to be their bread and butter. They know Street Fighter is a recognizable brand. They know it will sell. But how about doing a reskin of the Capcom? Last year when they did it, it was sort of a reskin, but they were both Street Fighter. You had your Yoga Flame, you had your Shindo Hadouken. So they were two skins, basically both Street Fighter. So how about give us if you got to give us a Street Fighter main theme legacy, reskin it to Final Fight, or reskin it to Ghosts and Goblins, or something along those lines, and give that to a Shop Hippo or a Walmart or a Best Buy or whatever. Make it a retailer only one. I don't give it to QVC. I don't care, but give us a reskin of something like that. I think people are those of us in the community who own multiple, who've seen these year after year, I think would love to see something in a different art style, at the very least, if not a different form factor. If you got to keep it the same look and just have the graphics be different, at least do that. At least give us a Ghosts and Goblins. Give us a Final Fight. While you're at it, make sure that the marquees are all the high quality marquees that you guys started doing in 2022. You were kind of hit or miss with that. You had some that were really great, some that were very so-so. Whatever you were doing to make the really great ones, keep doing that. All right? The marquees, just when they look gorgeous, and they really pop on these cabinets. So I think we would definitely love to see better marquees. Along those same lines are monitors. Now, last year, they did put out a bunch of these legacies with those TN monitors, and they got a lot of backlash for it. I'm hoping that based on the way the year ended, that they kind of learned their lesson there, and that we will see BOEs throughout the year of 2023. So if you're going to redo these legacies again, give us the BOE monitors. If you're going to put out the Atari and the Namco again, people may be more interested to upgrade, especially if you held off in 2022, if the 2023 ones have the better monitor, even if basically everything else is the same or very similar in them. A good monitor will go a long way towards enticing people to buy again. So, that's kind of my thoughts just in terms of form factor and things that I think Arcade1up could do different or could do better in 2023. So let me move on to this next, all right? And this I know is going to be a little bit of a sore subject for a lot of people, but it has to be said, all right? We know they're going to make new announcements, okay? We know we're going to see some new stuff, especially in January come CES. And yes, we're all excited to see what they're going to announce. But some of us are also sitting on cabs that are, let's be honest, a little bit half-baked, all right? Whether it's Marvel vs. Capcom 2, whether it's NFL Blitz, all right? We're sitting on cabs that either, have some issues with them that need to be addressed or are missing online components. Guys, you need to fix that, and you need to fix it sooner rather than later. Yes, people are going to be very excited to hear about new things, but let's face it, there is a certain subset of people within the community who are going to call that a distraction. We need to get these things taken care of, or at least hear from you that they're being worked on. And I'll get into that again in a second as well. But these things need to be fixed, and they need to be fixed sooner rather than later. We need to have those online components, and they need to be working well, okay? Maybe not perfect, all right? We don't live in a perfect world, and we know there's always factors involved, whether it's people's Wi-Fi, whatever. But well enough to be fun to play, okay? Dropping connections, lag, frame rates, those things that bring it down need to be addressed, all right? It needs to at least be playable and fun to play if you're going to add those things. So guys, you need to work on that. You need to get these things fixed. And while you're at it, people have been complaining about Dragon's Lair. People have been complaining about the audio sync issues and other minor things. Guys, throw a patch out there, fix that, all right? Just fix it.
Throw me a frickin' bone here.
I think it'd go a long way towards mending fences with certain people in the community to throw something out there for a cab that came out halfway in the year that people have been complaining about since it came out. It's a beautiful cab. People love it. It's on my wish list. It's something I know that eventually I'm going to get. But I would love to see it 100%, all right? Fix it. Just throw that out there to people. I think that you would get a little bit back just from doing that, all right? So my 2 cents on that. You need to fix cabs that are already out there that have issues while you're moving on to new ones. Not instead of, but while, okay? You can try to do both at the same time. I understand it's not always as easy as I make it sound, but it's something that has to be done. These things have to be addressed, right? While we're on that subject, let's talk about communication. We need to have better lines of communication come from Arcade1up throughout 2023. Now, last year, they opened up a YouTube channel called That's One Up Show. We got a handful of videos from them, and they weren't the best, all right? Now, listen, I'm still a fairly new YouTuber. My channel is less than a year old. I'm still learning. I'm not perfect. Half the time I really do feel like I'm sitting here just rambling, and I love you guys for coming along on the ride with me. Thank you so much for those of you who continue to watch and continue to listen to my rambling. So I know I'm not the perfect YouTube channel for sure. So maybe, people who live in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones. But having said that, you guys are a company, all right? You're supposed to have marketing and PR and all this kind of stuff. You can put together a better show. If not the show, then get some PR announcements out there. You've got all our email addresses. Hell, you send me 100 emails a week telling me about free shipping. Send me some press releases once in a while. Let us know where you stand on some of these things. Let us know what you're working with. Work with the influencers. Okay, again, I know there's been some back and forth on that kind of stuff in talking about, collusion and things of that nature. Whatever. I don't care. But, work with the... I'm not saying it's me, okay? I know there are bigger channels than mine that have been covering Arcade1up for much longer than I have. Work with them to get the word out of what you're doing, all right? But I don't care what it is, whether it's your own show, whether it's working with influencers, whether it's press releases, whether it's Facebook groups, whatever. Keep that communication out and open. Let people know what you're doing. Let people know what you're working on, because it's this constant feeling of being in the dark and just getting information from time to time that is driving us crazy when we have these things that aren't working 100%. All right. That's all I'm saying. Just keep some better lines of communication open. Now, moving on to some other possible predictions for the year. Again, I talked about the legacy cabs coming up. There have been some other leaks recently that make us think that Time Crisis is possibly coming up. Double Dragon is one that has been mentioned multiple times. All right, I think that at some point we will see some new IPs come from Arcade1up. Now, what they're going to be, I don't know. A lot of people have been talking about wrestling games for a while now. WrestleMania, WrestleFest, whatever. Don't shoot me, because it's not my thing. All right, I've never been a big wrestling game fan, so I don't know them that well compared to a lot of the other older games that I'm much more familiar with. Other than to say, they would be big for Arcade1up. I know a lot of people would, just like with Blitz, people would love to see some of these older wrestling games come out. Now, again, there's the licensing issue when it comes to that. Just like with the NBA, just like with the NFL, you've got the players, you've got the individuals. Now, the thing with wrestling is, I think for the most part, each individual wrestler kind of manages their own thing. They're not under an umbrella of WWF or WWE or whatever it is now. And again, I know that's another problem, because some of these were branded WWF. There is no WWF anymore. It's WWE or whatever it is, or whatever. So I know there's things that have to be changed, but just like they did with Blitz, where they made it the Blitz Legend. They may have to do a similar thing with a wrestling game, not make it 100% exactly what the game was, but get as close as possible, and then try to license as many of the guys who were in those games as possible. And I think that would be a huge one for Arcade1up if they could make that happen throughout this year. So that's an IP that I think people would really love. Beyond that, again, I would love to see some of the old school ones, whether it's a Robotron Smash TV type one, a Qbert type one, whatever. Surprise us with something that we haven't thought about. I would love to see a Konami Legacy with Contra on it. Whether or not something like that comes out, I would love to see. Going back to the legacies, hey, look, you've done Ms. Pac-Man to death. I would love to see a Galaga Galaxian themed one. I said this before, I will say it again. Take that Galaxian or Galaga Partycade, the 10 games on that, put that in a 3/4 form factor, and then throw a couple more games on there, and I think you've got a winner. All right, for sure. I would love to see that come from, not really a new IP. That's something that they've already had before. But hey, if you did that with a cab, I think people would love it. I know I would, for sure. I would buy that in a heartbeat. So that's something for sure. All right, but I think we will definitely see some new IPs. Let me know in the comments below what games you would love to see them come out with. All right, and don't say Nintendo. We all know we would all love Nintendo. That's probably not going to happen. A driving cab. I think we will see a driving cab this year. I think we're due for one. The last one was Ridge Racer. That came out early 2022 after being announced in late 2021. So I think we're due for one. Might be Fast and the Furious. I don't know. I would love to see Daytona. I would love to see Cruisin'. Cruisin's another one that's tricky just because there is still that little bit of a relationship there with Nintendo when it comes to Cruisin'. So I don't know if they could possibly get that license. Now, I think it might be easier to get a license like that where Nintendo doesn't own it outright. They own just a piece of it as opposed to, say, a Donkey Kong or a Play Choice cab that's wholly owned by Nintendo. But I got to be honest, I don't think Cruisin' is in the cards for 2023. I think that may be something down the road, but I do think we are due for a driving cab, which will be obviously a new IP for them as well. So that's something to keep your eyes out for. In terms of a shooter, I think it's going to be Time Crisis. Will we see a second shooter from them later in the year? I suppose it's possible, but the shooters and the driving cabs seem to be one per year. So I wouldn't put bets on it, but again, anything is possible. Time Crisis was supposed to come out in 2022, so with it coming out in 2023, does that mean they could have also something in the works for later on in the year? Maybe a House of the Dead, maybe a Lethal Enforcer. I don't know. Area 51 would be a great one. Revolution X would be a great one, although I think that's a one-game cab. You got to get Aerosmith to sign on, just like with T2. So we'll see about something like that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say one that I would love to see that I don't think is going to happen. I would love to see something like a Mad Dog McCree. Look, you got Dragon's Lair. Why not one of those? I think those are a lot of fun. I would love to see a bigger screen for something like that. But, hey, we'll see. But there's definitely a plethora of shooters that they could choose from. So we will have to wait and see what, if anything, else comes out later this year. But again, let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think? What would you love to see in terms of new IPs from Arcade1up? All right, I'm winding down a little bit here. I just have a couple of things left that I wanted to throw out there in terms of what could happen in 2023. And this one, I'm going to go way, way, way out on a limb on because I don't think, unfortunately, it's going to happen. But I think if it did, it would be possibly a good win for Arcade1up. And that would be to see prices start to decrease for some of their newer cabs. All right. A lot of these increases had to do with the pandemic, had to do with price increasing. Look, we know prices are still crazy. I'm not going to get into why that might be. I stay away from political stuff on this channel. I like to just have fun talking about the video game aspect of it. You can speculate for yourself. Let's not throw that in the comments. I don't want this to devolve into that kind of stuff. Other than to say that we know prices are still a little bit crazy, while things have come down a little bit, still nowhere near where they should be, where they were before the pandemic. So, will we see prices come down from Arcade1up? Probably not. Will we see things go up? Hopefully not. Hopefully they can at least keep it the same, if not lower things. I would love to see, especially like with the legacy cabs, I would love to see them get closer to, like, say, a $400 range as opposed to $500 and $600, which they had been. Do I think we're ever going to get back into like the $250, $300 range that their older cabs were? No, probably not. With the added games, with all the stuff that they've added onto it, hopefully, that stuff adds value too. But I don't think we're going to see things get that low. But if they could bring them down a little bit, even just $50, go to $450 instead of $500, I think people would see that and be excited about that. Just, my personal take. I know some of you are going to say, nope, $300. That's where these things should be. Look at these sales that are going on. You can get T2 now for $300. You can get Ridge Racer for $300. Yeah, I know, but Arcade1up already made their money on that by selling it to the retailers. That's the retailers, trying to sell stuff out for the Christmas season. We all know that, all right? And look, and yes, so they're still making money. We know that too. So there is, there's definitely a gap there between, what it costs to make these, what the profit margin is. But let's be real, Arcade1up is a company. Arcade1up wants to make money, all right? But, the question is, do you want people to buy one cab for $700 a year, or do you want them to buy two cabs at $400 a year? Think about it. Just saying. So we'll have to see where prices go in 2023. Like I said, I'm not placing bets on prices coming down, but I'm hoping that they're not going to increase more throughout this next year as well. And then finally, one last thing I just kind of want to touch on real quick, and this isn't really so much Arcade1up, although maybe a little. Back in April, obviously, we all know, we've all been talking about this throughout the year, is these huge leaks that came out of GameFly that kind of, laid a roadmap for what we thought we were going to see throughout the year. And for the most part, it was pretty darn accurate. And then we've got little leaks throughout the year from time to time from different places and different things. Again, throw your tinfoil hats on. Get your conspiracy theories ready as to whether or not these are coordinated or whether they're really accidental leaks. Whatever. But do we think we will see more leaks come throughout 2023? My guess is yeah. We'll see some. Whether they're little things here and there for stuff coming up, or whether it's one big huge info dump like we kind of got this year, we will have to wait and see. But for sure there will be something. Now, are these good for Arcade1up? I don't know. Maybe. Like I said, if you believe they're coordinated, then they obviously think they're good for them. If they're not coordinated, if these are things that are leaking accidentally, well, that's going to get back to what I was talking about before with communication. If you keep open lines of communication, if you throw press releases out there, if you have a show that talks about what's coming up throughout the year, then you're heading off these leaks anyway. Then the leaks mean nothing because we're already getting it through official channels. But either way, I know I will be keeping an eye out for these things. I know a lot of other YouTubers will be keeping their eye out for these things. And when they happen, we will be sure to let you know. Okay. And this year, I probably won't be as surprised as I was last year by the leaks because, hey, it's my first year. So now I know what to look for. Now I know what to expect. But you know what? I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to wrap it up here because I don't want this video to be crazy long. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, leave me your thoughts in the comments below. What would you love to see happen with Arcade1up this year? What can they do to earn your dollar, especially if you kind of held off on things throughout 2022? What can they do different to get back in your good graces if they lost that in the last year? Again, to get you to maybe purchase more. I would love to hear your comments and thoughts below. That's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, again, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And hey, have a great day. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.